Hi, Anna. Hi, Susan. Susan and Sue. Okay.
Do you want me to just put up the slides, Kathy?
Yes. Are we ready?
Hold on here. And
Okay. Welcome, everybody, to the SCBWI January 2025 Book Buzz. We're thrilled you are all here. We have three great authors to share with you today. And we also have Valerie, who's going to be our Beyond, talking about marketing, some marketing strategies before a launch and marketing strategies after. So be sure you stay on for that. Here we often will say, please share on social media our authors here and their new books. Please put in a review for them. Ask your librarian to add these books to their collections. That's how we help each other out. So that would be great if you would do that. Tonight we're buzzing about these. Pat Zietlow Miller is going to be talking about Unstoppable John, which came out this month. Holly Ann Burns is talking about I Am, but there's more to it than that, Holly. I Am.
It's the You Are, I Am book.
You Are, I Am. You are on the flip side of that. And then Kelly, our SCBWI volunteer, is featuring her new book, Holding On to Courage. So welcome the three of you.
Thank you so much.
Yes. So save the dates for the next book buzz. We're always shooting for the third Thursday of the month, and I think there's only one or two that we had to switch throughout the year, but otherwise third Thursday. So the next one will be February 20th. Mark your calendars. And now let's get the buzz from tonight's presenters. Okay. So what I have asked, I use different formats. Sometimes I let people just go and I give them X amount of time. We have three tonight, and I thought 15-20 minutes might be a little overwhelming to talk that long. So I decided to go the question and answer format tonight. So I'm going to start. Now, we've already got pictures of our authors with their books, but I'd like you also to hold it up for our audience so they can see it and have you share your book title and a brief description. Pat's is already up, so we will start with Pat.
Okay, this is Unstoppable John, How John Lewis Got His Library Card and Helped Change History. This is a nonfiction picture book about U.S. Representative and Civil Rights Leader John Lewis and how when he was 16 in 1956, he went to his local public library in Troy, Alabama, asked for a library card, knew that they would tell him no because there were Jim Crow laws and the library was only for white people. And that was his first act of civil protest that led to a lifelong commitment to civil rights, social justice, and he eventually helped pass legislation that made sure anybody could get a library card. And then he also won the National Book Award for books that he wrote. So it's basically about the role that libraries and books and reading had on his life.
Very important. Thank you, Pat. Holly, you want to go next?
Yes, thank you, Pat. I can't wait to get that book and get it to my children's school. It looks so amazing. Thanks for that incredible work. So I just wrote a little blurb because otherwise I can talk on and I want to stay on point. But my book is called You Are, and oops, you are here. And then on this side, it's I Am. And I was inspired to write it when I was volunteering in my daughter's kindergarten class on Madison's East Side. The school has the highest number of elementary school aged kids that are dealing with housing insecurity in the Madison Metropolitan School District. I don't have to tell you about the trauma that kids who are facing homelessness have seen. When I was volunteering, I wanted to hug all of them and tell them how important and lovable they are. but I'm not a social worker or a psychologist. So I looked inward, thought, where are my professional skills aligned? What are my strengths and backgrounds? And how can I provide love and empathy to kids? And that's how I started writing and designing the book. Essentially, the purpose of the book is to provide caretakers with words of love and affirmation to read and share with their kids. And also so that the kids can read the one side, I am, and it's all about I am loved, I am smart, I am important. And then, of course, it says on the other side, it's for the caretaker to say, you are smart, you are important, etc. Because research shows that the words we hear from our parents or our caretakers when we are kids becomes our inner dialogue in young adulthood and potentially later in life. What would happen if all children were told by the people who mean the most to them that they're loved and important? When children start believing in themselves and that they matter in this world, their potential is almost limitless. In a world that needs more love and empathy, I'm trying to spread more love and empathy through this book.
Beautiful. Beautiful. My granddaughter's in kindergarten. I need to buy that book. Thank you. Kelly.
My book is Holding On to Courage. It's a middle grade book, and it's a dual timeline, which is kind of unusual for a middle grade book. So Holding On to Courage, alternating chapters take place post-Vietnam War. And I chose that time period because that's a time period that we usually don't get to in history class. We start out at the Native Americans, and then we go to the Revolutionary War, and we never seem to get all the way up to the Vietnam War. So I wanted to do a little bit of education with it. And it's about two sisters that have to flee after the Vietnam War, and they get on a fishing boat, and eventually they make it to the United States. But it's all about their adventure getting here. And then the alternating chapters are about a 12-year-old named Kim. And Kim plays soccer, and Kim is being bullied on the soccer team, and she wants to quit. And it's about how one of these sisters has to convince Kim that she should not quit soccer and why. So, Holding On
Excellent.
to Courage.
We just went to Punta Gorda yesterday and toured the Vietnam Memorial. And that was so, oh, I was just fighting tears the whole time. I love your time period there, Kelly. Awesome. Okay. Next question. What is a highlight from your writing career? I'm sure many of you have many. I don't know if you can pick just one, but a highlight from your writing career. We'll start with Holly.
Thank you. So I'm a writer, but more heavily, I'm an artist and an illustrator. So this book was a diversion from that because I have a background in design. So it's very heavily in design, the book. But writing this book, I think probably the biggest highlight was when my daughter saw it. I had given it to her teacher as a present, a new teacher, and she saw her reading it. And she got so excited and she said, that's my mom's book. You've got my mom's book. My mom wrote that book. And then she talked about we do positive affirmations at home every night at bedtime. We talk about how important we are. And it was just it really hit home that she's been paying attention, even if she's complaining at bedtime, not this again. But, she was so proud. So that was the biggest
Awesome.
probably highlight.
That's awesome. That's wonderful. Kelly?
Probably, well, one is just being published because it's just amazing for that to happen because it's so hard to get published. So that's one. But one of the things that just touched me, I'm a teacher, a retired teacher, and I taught fourth grade and fifth grade primarily. And so at Christmas time, I got a lot of messages from former students that said, Mrs. Flanagan, I bought your book, and I want to know if I can get together with you so that you can sign it for me. And that was really neat to see my former students that had heard about my book and that they bought it, even though that's not their age range for it. I just thought that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Very good. Pat?
I think it's probably, the reaction that you get after the book comes out because, writing is such a solitary endeavor. You write this thing, you put it out in the world, and then it's kind of out of your control what happens then. And for most of my books, out of nowhere, I'll get emails, from teachers, from parents telling me about how it impacted their family, or their small child was having this concern and then they read the book and then this happened, and they're always just so uplifting, and it's great because even my books that maybe haven't been as big of a commercial success, there's always at least one email from somebody saying, well, I read your book to my child and then this is what happened. that just are just so uplifting in terms of keeping you going and knowing that there are people out there reading it and enjoying it and finding meaning in it. And that's super cool.
That is. I think we can all totally agree with that. Thank you. Where do your ideas come from? Kelly, you want to start that? Where do your ideas come from?
Sure. It seems like I'm just finishing up and querying for my second book. So my ideas came from different places. So for Holding On to Courage, one of the books adult book that I read was The Winter Garden by Hannah Kristen or Kristen Hanna.
Oh,
And she wrote a book that was a dual timeline book. And I just fell in love with it. I was like, what a neat thing to do to have two stories and you don't know how they're going to converge. And then all of a sudden at the end of the book that they come together. So I wanted to write a book that was a dual timeline because I really liked that idea that the stories came together at the end, but the reader had to figure out how they were going to come together. So in that case, mentioned before that I chose the Vietnam War because it's kind of a time in history that a lot of people don't know about. It's kind of a forgotten time. We learn about World War I and we learn about World War II and we learn about the American Revolution, the Civil War. But by the time we get up to things like the Korean War, the Vietnam War, we don't know so much about those. So I picked that, and then of course I wanted to pick something more contemporary. And I know that a lot of kids, especially kids in my class, are really into soccer. So I chose it for that. For my second book, that, like I said, I'm just querying right now. A lot of my story ideas come from my classroom. And in my second book, I had a student that just was the neatest student, and I still remember him to this day. And he was a little boy that lived with his grandma and grandpa and they were heavily involved in the classroom. I saw them a lot. And he lived with his grandma and grandpa because his mother was out of the picture. She had a mental illness. And the little boy's father had been deported back to Mexico. He was an illegal immigrant. And so my story in my second book came from that. So a lot of my ideas for stories that I'm working on and books that I'm working on, it's from what's happened in my classroom and kids that have kind of tugged on my heartstrings in the classroom.
how do you think you know when an idea is good enough for a book?
That's a tough one because, I think that we all, I know I suffer from an imposter syndrome that it's like, I think I have a great idea. And then when I get further into it, it's like, who am I to say that this is a good idea? And so when even after my book came out, I was like, is it really good? Is it okay? Do I really want people to read this? So how do I know it's good enough? What I go on is I love doing book groups. As a fourth and fifth grade teacher, that was one of my favorite things to do were book discussion groups. And I spent pretty much all summer reading middle grade books, every single summer reading middle grade books for 18 years. And so when I come up with an idea, is that an idea that if I pulled a book off the shelf, if I pulled a middle grade book out, during the summertime, is that an idea that I think I'd really want my students to read that kind of book? So I kind of try to gauge it by that, use it. What do I know about all the middle grade books that I had to read over the years and years and years?
Good. Yeah. Pat, how about you? Where do your ideas come from?
Well, a lot of my books were inspired by my youngest daughter, who's now 22. Like 4 of them came directly out of things she did as a small child. So she always maintains that like I owe her heavily, and I probably do. I get ideas from like hearing little bits of conversation that people say, and I'll be like, oh, I can work with that. So I'm always listening, like in grocery stores or whatever I'm doing. For Unstoppable John, that was a little different. After John Lewis won the National Book Award for his graphic novel March, I saw his acceptance speech, and he talked about asking for a library card and not being able to get one and his like pursuit of books. And then I saw something that School Library Journal had done about John Lewis and, how libraries were sending him library cards after he won, told that story, like libraries were sending him cards saying, come see us. And I'm like, okay, there might be something there. So that kind of was the stepping off point to me doing a lot of research to see if there was enough book related content around his life for a book that I wrote.
And you have quite a few books out there. How do you know when it's a good idea?
All I can do is like start working on it. And sometimes I start working on it and I know pretty quickly, like, this is not going to work. Like it seemed like a good idea, but now that I'm into it, like, no. Other times, like if it just comes together, I can tell, but I have some drafts that I think are amazing that have not sold and probably will not sell. So it's not like you can always tell for sure. But to me, usually if I'm still excited about it after several months of working on it, and then that to me is a hint that I might be on the right track.
when you're excited. Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't go away, the excitement.
Right. Holly, how about you? Where do your ideas come from?
So the You Are, I Am book, and as I mentioned in the introduction, it came from volunteering in the classroom, in the kindergarten classroom. And essentially, I was in this classroom of, there were over 20 little kindergartners. We're talking about 5-year-olds, and they were all so amazing and beautiful. And like a lot of them came from, poverty and some very difficult situations at home. And, they I remember one of the first days I volunteered, the teacher had me sit down. She said, "We're going to be able to ask Miss Holly questions about herself." And so I sat down and she said, "Okay, go ahead." And instead of getting questions, I kid you not, every single one had something to say, like, "I like your face. I like your glasses. I like your nose. I like your ring. I like your earring. I like your hair." Like, it was just like they were throwing so much love and compliments at me, genuine compliments, like from their deep depths of their hearts. And then, thinking about the schools that this kindergarten, this classroom, and this elementary school feed into are facing some really serious societal problems. Like the kids are going in the wrong direction and they're not necessarily getting the support they need. And whether it's a home or the schools, a lot of it is happening kind of across all of the spaces. And so, trying to think, how can I like try to reach them? They're at this kindergarten age. They've seen a lot of awful stuff and they're still so pure and beautiful and so special and important. And, sometimes feeling a little bit powerless and trying to figure out where can your talents align to get this out there. Um, and I know your other question was, how do you know if, your idea is a good one? And I think, when I started to share it, originally I did it as I only designed it as a fundraiser. I wanted to make this book and get it into the hands of all Madison Metropolitan School District kindergarten, first and second graders. And so I was fundraising this money to just literally pay for the printing of the book from my local printer. And as I was fundraising, I would have adult men, like businessmen, all kinds of people saying, "Oh my gosh, where can I buy this book? I need this for me," or "I need this for my college age daughter," or, "My parents never said I love you. They didn't know how. I would wish that they would have." And then, or in my culture, we didn't say these words, gosh. And then I started to be like, oh my goodness, this is so much bigger. And so that's when I realized that it's a larger audience than even just kindergarten and first graders. It's like all these people were all craving love and connection. And especially in this time and age, like there's such a need for like empathy and frankly love in the world. So there's that. But I will say, we all have our doubts when I'm like trying to fundraise all this type of thing and I'm not, actually generating money, or when I, there's of course going to be doubts bubbling up, but my background is in design and design strategy and the design thinking process. The first piece is the research piece, the empathy piece, and you're going out and you're doing research. You're seeing what people have to say about whatever you're creating a product or you're creating a service or a system, and you're interviewing people and finding out, okay, so this is what I think is interesting. I think this is what needs changing or is important or what's missing or where the gap is. But what if I set aside my own personal, biases and assumptions, and I go out and I see what actually is missing and what is actually needed? And sometimes you'll surprise yourself when you realize, like, there's so many different people with so many different pain points, and where can you fit in to try to help and solve some of those pain points in whatever small way that we can.
Yeah, exactly. Very well said. And I did want to mention before, there are 19 people signed up. Many people wait and watch this at their leisure. So if you look around and you're like, oh, not too big a crowd, we actually are starting to pull in more and more and more. So we will more than likely have at least 19 people watching this. So, don't think it's just our tight little group. Okay. What is your writing? This is one of my favorites. What is your writing life like? Mine is so chaotic. I want to hear. I'm starting with Pat on that one. What is your writing life like?
Well, right now it's kind of a disaster. Um, it's when I can fit it in. And right now I'm so up to my ears in like marketing stuff, which I know Valerie's going to talk about later, that like my whole life is marketing and responding to email and promotion. And I've just been thinking lately, I've got to get back to a regular, more predictable writing schedule. When I'm in that, it's more of when I'm in it, I try to do it every day. I don't do it in like huge chunks. I tend to do it in smaller bursts of activity spread out over time. I've usually got a couple things going on at once, so I might be working on something new, and then when I get stuck on that, I'll go and work on like revising something that maybe has comments from an editor. Um, and then, then there's some, like if I've got art coming in to look at, I can also look at that. So it's kind of like moving back and forth between the different things. But I do find that when I'm able to stick to a writing new content schedule more than I have been lately, I'm much happier. So you think knowing that I would be better at doing it, but I always have to remind myself, if you just sit down and write, you're going to feel a lot better. And then I do.
I so well said. I struggle too. My main writing time is 3:30 in the morning. I don't know why. I just tend to wake up then and it's so quiet
Whatever works,
and I can concentrate. So I love these stories because that is a struggle, I think, for many of us. There's so many facets to being an author, and marketing had, even with some of the bigger companies, publishing companies, they're doing less and less marketing. So we have to do more and more. So
And
we're
my
spread
publishers
pretty
do.
thin.
No, I'm sorry. I mean, my
No.
publishers do a good job, but there's still so many other things. And I used to work in PR and communication, so I'm almost like, well, I could do this, I could do that, and it's a balance thing, because you have to create new things too. So I'm still struggling with the balance end of things.
Right, exactly. Holly, how about you? Writing life.
Yeah, so I have a 5 and a 7-year-old, and so I don't really have a lot of
Should we
hobbies. No, I'm
just
kidding.
stop you there?
Yeah, that's all you have to say. No, I have my own business as well, but I think it's a little bit comforting to hear Pat also has that struggle, knowing that that's like her career and she's like making it and doing it. So, because I do feel that guilt, and I'm gonna speak like as an illustrator more because I don't consider myself a writer. But that creative piece, like you crave it, you need it, you want it, you have to do it. You're a maker, but it can still be so hard to do it in this day and age. We have so many things pulling at our attention. And so I, it's in stolen moments. Today, like I had a 1 hour gap in between a meeting and having to do something else. And I was like, you know what? I've been wanting to work on this new book I'm illustrating with a friend. And I was like, I need to just throw myself at it for 1 hour. And then it's just in stolen moments, but those are such precious moments, and time moves so quickly. Like, it's just about prioritizing it. And ultimately, like Pat said, it makes us feel good when we do it. Why is it so hard to get to it? But it's like the marketing and all the other pieces of life, and cooking and feeding yourself and grocery shopping, all the things come together and take up the space. But it's whenever you can make the time. 3:30, I'm not up at 3:30, Kathy. That is impressive. I am totally
Mm-mm.
wow,
It's
go girl.
nuts. My husband says it's nuts, and it is.
Yeah,
No,
but it's peaceful. But it is peaceful.
it's
Nobody is
peaceful, it's
trying to get
quiet,
your
I can
attention.
concentrate. Now Kelly's down south here like I am, so we have no excuses, right, Kelly?
Well,
What is your writing life like?
that's the thing. It's kind of quieted down since being down in Florida. I had a snafu with my book. The publisher originally put it out, and there was a mistake with it, and it came out in a small font. And so they had to publish it again and make it into the right font and the right size. So because of that, I had a bunch of school visits set up beforehand, but I had to wait for my book to come out. So all those school visits got pushed into the spring. So right now, because I set up all the school visits before, my writing life is kind of quiet. Kathy mentioned I'm down here in Florida. I come down from the beginning of January until sometime in March. So this is kind of my time to just sit back and to think about ideas and maybe just do some fun writing. and a little bit of marketing because I'm still trying to market my book. Kind of funny though with my writing life though is one is, first of all, Holly, I don't know how you do it, because having small children and writing and having a business, that just blows me away because I can't even imagine doing that. My goal was always, when I retire, I'm going to write a book. And I couldn't even imagine doing it beforehand. So kudos to you, because that's got to be really hard to do.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it is, but I also fear, my dad passed away suddenly when he was not that old. So I'm like, life is unpredictable. Like I gotta grab the moments. I'm getting older. If I wait, I always wanted to write a children's book, or I mean, illustrated children's book, and it's now or never, right? But I am
Well, that
teetering
way
on
to
the edge of
retirement, you hear
insanity.
that way too often. Just never happens. So you're absolutely right.
That's true. But when I was growing up, I've always loved to write. But when I was growing up, I was one of those kids that had to do my homework in front of the television set. And I drove my parents crazy because I'd have the TV set on and I'd be doing my homework. And of course, it took me twice as long to get my homework done. But I needed that background noise and I needed the distraction because homework was not something that I enjoyed doing. So if I had that distraction, I could watch TV in between solving a math problem or in between answering some questions. It just kept me going. So I kind of write like that, unfortunately. I have the TV on and I'm usually sitting on the couch with my feet up. And it's the same thing. I'm writing, but the TV is always on in the background. It's just kind of the way I work. And I'm a morning worker. I'm much more lively. I'm much more energetic in the morning. So I can get a lot more writing done, a lot more words on the page if I do it in the morning. If I stay to evening, then it seems like it takes me twice as long to get anything done. So my writing life now very quiet, but it's also that when I do write, it's very noisy.
Yeah. Yeah. Very
One thing
good.
I wanted to mention too is critique groups, because with a writing life, what I have found that's been a lifesaver is being part of a critique group. And I'm part of two. I'm part of, it's actually a business out of Waukesha and Waukesha, Wisconsin. And in there, it's a weekly. So every week we're held to bringing in about 3,000 or 3,700 words. And we critique. There's a group of 6 of us, and and people, they really dissect your work, which is wonderful because I feel like, boy, they've made my writing so much better. And then I'm also part of one of those SBCWI critique groups. And that's been really helpful too. We do that by email. We send out our chapters by email and critique. So I think part of a writing life, what I found super, super valuable is having people to critique my work and to give me feedback and to let me know when something's not working or when I need to add more details or when it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that is really good advice. I just have a critique partner, so we only have to read each other's, but it does hold you accountable because you know it's coming up and you know you got to have something done. So good advice, Kelly. This is another favorite of mine. What other creative endeavors are you involved in? Holly, are you up?
Sure, sure. So I am illustrating this book, Winnie Wonders, about a curious little girl, and she's wondering, do superheroes have to eat carrots and all these fabulous, it's all about her wondering. And then and my friend who wrote it is a mother, and she's also she's trying to become a children's book writer. And so we relate on this, like we've got this busy chaos of children, little girls, and then also wanting to pursue this creative side of ourselves. And anyway, so I've got that book. I'm still working on getting the I Am You Are book out there, and I'm working on versions in Spanish. I'm working with somebody on American Sign Language, that there was an interest there. So different versions of this book in different languages. And then my design strategy business is very creative. I'm constantly designing presentations and workshops and PowerPoint decks. And so it keeps me on my toes. All of it is very creative. Thankfully, I'm old enough to know what I'm good at and what I need to do. Of course, doing those things is a lot, like we just talked about. It's harder. It's easier said than done. But I feel so grateful. I have a supportive husband, and my kiddos are, wonderful and crazy and wild, and they keep me inspired, daily, but also frustrated and crazy and wild and teetering on the edge of insanity, but very, very inspired.
That's wonderful. Now, your friend who's trying to become an author, is she a member of SCBWI?
She is. She
Good.
is. She actually just became a member in the last few weeks, and
Good. There's so
um,
many great resources for new
yes,
authors.
yes, we're both going to be volunteers at the Wisconsin Reading Association, so I hope that we get to see some of you in person there.
You will learn a ton from Joyce, believe me.
Can't wait. I can't wait. Yeah, she's giving you kisses, and
And
I
I have to say these things as I think of them. I have people send me their book if they want it brought to these different conferences. And so I had a whole stack here and I just sent them to Joyce because I can't make the WSRA conference. If you want your newest book to be at that conference, please send it to Joyce. And Joyce, would you throw your address in or maybe let them contact you however you're comfortable?
Joyce,
But
I
I
think,
would not
sent
have
it.
time.
She sent it in the listserv, I believe. I mailed you one. It's going out today or tomorrow if it didn't go out
Okay.
yet. So
Because if we have them, we
could
talk
be
to
wrong.
people about them and we promote them. And, you know, Joyce knows many of you authors personally, and
you.
she'll go back in the history of your books and she does a great job. So if you want that book at WSRA, get it to her. Or any of you other authors too out there, you know, feel free to, at this point, send them to Joyce, but normally send them to me. And then we make sure we feature them at the different conferences. Okay, Kelly, what other creative endeavors?
Creative endeavors. I I think where I'm using my most creativity is with my 4 grandchildren because they're 3, 3, 5, and 17. And so I watch the 2 3-year-olds and the 5-year-old a lot when I'm not in Florida. And so a lot of creativity. We do a lot of craft projects. We do a lot of making things and we making gifts for them. So that non-writing, but boy, it takes a lot of creativity to keep 2 3-year-olds and a 5-year-old busy. Another thing that I'm doing is I'm kind of taking a break from writing novels now. Like I said, I'm querying right now my second one, and I've decided to go the short story route, which is I probably should have started with that. So I'm working on some short stories. I have a mom with dementia, and one of the stories that I'm working on now is she came up and stayed with me for 2 weeks, and her interactions with the 5-year-old were hilarious and scary at the same time. And so after she left, it was like, oh my gosh, I have to write this up. So I'm working on 2 or 3 different short stories. So that's probably my creativity with writing, working with the grandkids. And then the last thing is, and it's really not creative, but it's just a huge mental outlet is pickleball. I am an avid pickleball player down here. I play every single day. And so I'm having a blast down here in Florida because we'd have to be indoors up in Wisconsin and I get to play outside here. So, but that's kind of my outlet when I'm not writing. My other hobby is my pickleball. And like I said, I do it every single day. It's a lot of fun. One thing that I want to mention too, I'm wearing 2 hats tonight. So I'm usually not an author on here. I'm the person that's behind the scenes. And so, as that person's behind the scenes, I would like to know if you two, as authors, Pat and Holly, if you could put the Amazon link or wherever people can buy, not just Amazon, but wherever people can buy your book, if you can put a link in the chat. And that way, if somebody here is interested or somebody watching the video, they have that in the chat that they can go to purchase your book. So sometime before you leave tonight, if you could do that as well. Like I said, I had to put on my webinar coordinator hat for a couple minutes.
Right. And Joyce also has it in the newsletter, but it's nice to have it just so handy right here. So great idea, Kelly. Pat, creative endeavors.
Creative endeavors. Well, I just in the past year learned how to do Instagram video, Reels, TikTok. I had been very intimidated by all of that before, but I found somebody who knew how to do it. They taught me, and it's actually been a lot of fun. So I've learned how to, create little short video reels, and I amuse myself by doing that now. So I've got that. I'm on the foundation board of directors for my local public library, which is really a lot of fun. I've always been a huge library proponent, and just being part of the effort. And the Sun Prairie Library is putting on a big, huge edition, which makes me really happy. So I've been involved in helping that happen. And then in terms of like future bookish stuff, I have a book coming out in September about being an introvert. And since I'm like the world's largest introvert, that was really fun to write about how you can be a quiet leader. And then I have one that doesn't have an exact release date yet, but it's kind of cool. There's a social media influencer guy, Peter Mutabazi. He's called Foster Dad Flipper. He grew up in Uganda. He came to the U.S. He was actually lived on the streets of Uganda for as a child. He homeless alone as a 10-year-old until somebody kind of scooped him up and paid for his schooling and made sure he was okay. And so because of that, he became a foster dad. And so he's fostered more than 40 children. He's adopted 3 of them. And we're working together to write a picture book about being a dad. And it could apply to anybody who's a dad, but my children are adopted. So it has a little bit of a focus on all kinds of dads: foster dad, adoptive dad, biological dad. And that, I don't know when it's coming out, but I'm excited about working with him on that.
Wow, that's exciting. And will you please be sure to fill out our little form when that book comes out so we can get you back again. Pat, do you also do like trailers for new books?
I've never done a trailer. I've had a couple times where the illustrator's done the trailer, but I haven't gotten that good. I tend to do more little like humorous, funny, like 7-second little flashy
I
things.
like your library ones.
Oh, thank you. They're fun too. But yeah, I have never made my own book trailer because that is a bit beyond me still.
I want to feature that on one of the Beyonds because a lot of people ask about that. Canva seems to be the most popular choice for that, but there are certainly more advanced ways of doing it too. And I don't know anything about it. So I know we're going to Valerie for marketing advice, but do any of you have marketing advice that has worked for you so far? And what did I start with? Holly, why don't you start? Do you have any marketing advice for us?
No, I mean, I am still figuring it all out in terms of the book world. I use Instagram. I try to do, Instagram posts and stuff like that. But my next big thing is I'm gonna go around and talk to some of our local bookstores and local schools and stuff like that. So I'm here. I can't wait to learn more.
And you've got a website that you can sell from, and that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fearful about putting it on Amazon only because like the percentage, it seems like it's not very great percentage of like what you can earn if you're I'm still new. I'm really new to this.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry, I was busy reading the chat there. Yes, there's a lot to learn, and we got some really good people here to learn from. So that's awesome. Kelly, how about you?
Like Holly, I'm learning. It was my first book that came out, so I am learning, but I've done so much reading and ask a lot of people too. And one of the things that I've read a lot, and I think I do tend to agree, is that they said trouble is with middle grade books or picture books, we're not appealing to the kids, we're appealing to the parents because that's who buys the books. So how do we appeal to kids and get kids to go home and tell their mom that they want to buy the book? They said school visits are huge. So that's really what I'm focusing on. I got to say that I've done maybe 5 school visits so far that have worked pretty well. But I'm hoping when I set them all up in the spring that I can say it was successful. I don't know right now. It's just something that I read. Another thing that I've been working and learning a lot, like you said, I think you said that, Pat, is Instagram Reels. I've learned how to do reels, and I'm putting reels out and making it public and tagging, middle grade readers and librarians and people like that in it. I created my own trailer. I did the first one, and my writing critique group told me it was terrible and to trash and start again. I told you they're very honest with you. They're really super helpful. So that's what I did. I trashed it. They said I was giving away too much. And so I did another one, which they did like. So I learned how to do trailers too. So marketing, I think that's what I'm doing now is I'm trying to do a lot of school visits and I'm trying to do a lot of Instagram reels and putting some things on Facebook and things like that. What I have learned is that publishers, in this day and age that there's a lot of small publishers, and I'm with a smaller publisher. They don't have enough resources to be able to really do a lot of marketing for your book. They expect the author to do that. And that's something, when you start writing, you think, oh, it's like Random House or Holiday House or Simon & Schuster, Scholastic, and they're going to do all that marketing for you. And what I've learned is that there's, you have to do an awful lot yourself. So, and that was a surprise to me, but I'm having fun learning all the marketing stuff. And I can't wait to learn more from Valerie today.
Yeah, me too. And Pat, you got a bunch
Two
out
things.
there. What do you do?
I have lots of things that I do, but the two things I've learned is you have to do something that you enjoy. Like if you hate social media, um, don't do it. If you hate doing a newsletter, don't do it because it'll come across in what you do. So it took me a while to figure out what's the marketing stuff that I actually enjoy. And I do the stuff that I enjoy. I'm not a big newsletter person. I don't do that. Initially, school visits really stressed me out, so I didn't do them. I now do, and I've figured out a way to make them work for me. But I initially felt like I had to do it all, and then you just like stressing yourself out and you're going to burn out. And especially since there's often no direct way to know if what you're doing moves the needle or not, so you put all this effort to it and then you're like, well, are the results any different than if I'd done nothing? So I do the things I like. The second thing is I try to look at it from more of a building an overall long-term brand, not so much like, can I get someone to buy this one particular book of mine, but what can I do so I'm active in the children's lit community, so I'm visible, so I'm making connections, so, people know who I am, recognize me, and then down the road, maybe that translates into a book sale or a school visit or a webinar or something. Because if you tie all your worth as an author to what your Amazon number is or what your first royalty statement looks like, it's really easy to feel like a failure if it doesn't come out the way you want it to. So I tend to look at things as like a long-term investment. And plus, I really like other children's book authors. I like the children's lit community. I like being part of it. So I try to do the things that I would do anyway, just because I really enjoy it. And then hopefully it all like pans out down the road.
Right. That is great advice. And while we're on that, social media intimidates me too. And one great thing we can do for each other is just subscribe to each other's social media, follow each other. Joyce and I just started a Substack. It's called You Grow News, and it's brand new to us. And we're just learning, and I'm super insecure about it. And I really don't know how to get some subscribers. So I was starting to put just little quotes on, and I know that's not the right way to do it. So I'm learning by making mistakes. So subscribe to each other, follow each other. I think that would be when you talk about a community, Pat, and how we just enjoy being with each other, we do, and we learn so much from each other. So I think we should all do that, especially right here tonight with the ones who were willing to show up. Let's follow each other.
And can I just say one more thing? Like,
Yeah,
I really try very hard to talk about other people's books because if you just my book, my book, my book, my book,
right.
it's really off-putting and annoying and for the people receiving it, and then for you, like you get tired of seeing yourself. And plus, like I said, I read tons of other books by people. So if I read a book and love it, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna talk about it and I'm gonna try to feature other people. So yeah, I think that's really important.
It's huge.
Can I ask a quick question? Since we're on the school visit topic, how do you, like, I have 2 school visits, but they're through people that I'm friends with that are teachers. How do you get school visits? Do you just reach out to the school, and how does that even, or yeah, I don't even know where you begin.
Valerie, is that on your list of topics?
No, it wasn't on my list of topics. But I'm curious about whether, like, the bios that we have, the space we have on the SCBWI website, have you ever been approached by schools from that biography? And like, it's got all the info on like what you're willing to present on, like you can fill that whole thing out. So as a member, we've got this like space, and then people can see it's like the speakers bureau kind of thing. But I don't know if it actually, in theory, if it works in practice. Like, I don't know if teachers know to go there,
Well, I
right?
do a lot of schools, and what I do is I contact them.
Yeah,
And
so
they
it goes
always say
that way.
principals are busy, don't, send an email, don't call them. Sorry, Joyce, I know you were a principal, but I have the best luck calling principals. And I'll say, please lead me to your media specialist or your librarian, but I always start with them because they're the boss. And then I just ask if I said, charging and not charging is a whole nother thing. It's your own comfort zone. But I always ask if I can send a pre-order form the week before I come. And then I send a reminder the day before I come. And I usually get enough sales at schools that it's always worth my time. So that's what I do. It's just a pre-order form. It's in my press kit. All I have to do is grab it and send it. And sometimes they use it digitally. They send it out when they communicate with their parents that way. And sometimes they make hard copies. Each school is a little different.
As far as school visits go, I have the advantage that I was a teacher in a district. So that's a district that I started with, is just talking to them in between upper elementaries and intermediate schools and middle schools. That got me my visits so far. I also have contacts. So on Facebook, when I posted that I published a book, teachers that have left my district and gone to other district, they contacted me and they said, hey, would you be willing to come in? Or I've had parents contact me that I know and say, would you be willing to come into my kid's school? So it's mostly through right now personal contact. The community where I live, I contacted the librarian for the community where I live. And she was real honest with me. She got back and she said, do you know how many requests we get from authors to come into our school? She said, so many people are publishing books now that she said, we get 100 requests a year. So we really have to be careful who we come in. So I am still talking to them. They're waiting for my book to come out on the place where they go to order their books, because they said they want my book, in the on the catalog where they order their books. But it's hard to break in. I mean, I don't know, Kathy, it sounds like you've had better luck than me, but it's hard to break into that when they're getting a lot of people contacting them. So I've tried to go through the districts that I'm setting up things, that I've tried to go through personal contacts.
I've been doing it for 4 or 5 years, though. I think you get a little better the more you do it. It's a little intimidating at first, but like I'm in Port Charlotte, Florida right now. We just bought a condo down here. I just Googled all the elementary schools and contacted all the principals, and almost everyone said yes. So, I think it's just a little bit of legwork too.
Yeah.
Just getting out there.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That's super helpful.
Wonderful. And Joyce, thank you for all of your info there too. Last question. We know a little bit about this. I know, Holly, you shared a little bit. Do you have another project right now in the pipeline? Pat, you have a book coming out in September. Holly, you're working on illustrating. Kelly, you're querying. Do I even have to ask this question, or would you like to tell a little more about it? Whoever wants to.
I think I've said what I want to say. I've kind of told you where I'm at.
Okay, Pat?
The one coming out in September about being an introvert, I wrote it during the pandemic. And during the pandemic, since I'm such an introvert, it took me a lot longer than many people to feel frustrated by the pandemic. I was quite happy sitting alone in my house. So, that's what inspired it. But now when you read it, it's not a book about the pandemic. It's just a book about, finding a way as an introverted, quiet person. It's more like a lyrical poem. It's also the shortest picture book I've ever written. It's like 150 words or less, and there's a lot of room for the illustrator to do her thing. And Annie Crone is the illustrator, and she created a whole subplot that's just in the art about little free libraries, and I love little free libraries, so I was super excited about that. So I'm already thinking about a promo deal involving little free libraries for when that book comes out.
That's a great thing to mention. So many of us will take a book and put it right in the little free libraries facing out. I mean, eventually it probably gets put in the right way, but initially, if you face it out, what a great way to promote your book. What a great way to give for free and to, have books in kids' hands. So I think that's a great thing to do.
Yeah, I love that. I hadn't even thought about that. And I was just going to say, yeah, so besides the 50 Valentines that my daughters and I have been working on endlessly, it feels like forever, this book, Winnie Wonders, is going to be coming out later this year. And Winnie Wonders captures some of the wonderful questions posed by an imaginative child in her early years, from pondering if dinosaurs are still around to, like I said before, whether superheroes need to eat carrots. Children and parents alike connect to this heartwarming story about curiosity, friendship, and the magic of childhood. So my friend wrote that about our little book coming out.
That's great. That's great. Good luck with that. How
Thank
exciting
you.
to
Thank
have two books,
much.
going strong. And Valerie just wrote the full list of libraries in Wisconsin is available from DPI. And she's absolutely right. If you wait to contact librarians, they sometimes are an entire year out. I have found that a lot, that they can be scheduled an entire year out. So, you want to reach out early and have them get you on their list for their summer programs or their, toddler hour or whatever it is that you're looking at. Okay, wow, this was great. That is it for my questions. We've got time before we're gonna ask Valerie to jump in. Anybody in the audience or anybody who's been sharing anything you would like to ask or share? Couple of faces that I'm not familiar with, would love to hear your story. Feel free to jump in and share or ask. Anna, I don't know that you and I have met, and yet I've seen your name over and over and over.
Hi, I'm Anna.
And tell them what you do with SCBWI.
I am the new illustrator coordinator. So, I am just outside Oshkosh in Winneconne, and so I'm just kind of getting my feet under me, trying to figure out what kind of programs work for people, and just create and continue to create some more community in the Wisconsin illustrator space. So
You're doing a lot of great things, by the way.
thank you. Thanks. Yeah, we had a critique group on Monday night, I think, or Sunday. I'm still not back to like the normal schedule after the holidays. And it was really great. It was fun. We had like 7 or 8 people there, and it was awesome.
That's great.
Yeah.
Good for you. My brother lives on Winneconne.
Oh,
I bet there aren't
perfect.
many people that know it when you say it.
Yeah, maybe I know him.
Doug Ackley. Okay, how about Sue? Sue, you're a new face to me. I know Sue Twigs. Sue Coe, is that how you say your name?
It is. Thank you, Kathy,
Hi.
for having me.
Yeah. Thanks
Yeah.
for attending.
Well, I was just wondering where I got turned on to this. I don't know if it was Book Riot or through SCBWI. I don't recall, but yeah, I'm so grateful to be here.
Good.
I'm in California. I'm in Los Angeles, actually. So this is a welcome mental break.
Very good, very good. And you are always welcome to sit in. And of course, all of you know that whenever you have a new book coming out, there's a form right on our website. Please fill it in, send it to me. We'll get you scheduled on these book buzzes. Whatever month you want, you get to pick, and it's fun to feature each other. So other areas like you, Sue, you're very welcome to sit in and participate.
Thank
Sue,
you so
I'm
much. Yeah, tonight was
hoping-
great.
Sue, I'm hoping that everything is good for you in California right now, for you personally and your family.
Oh, thank you. It is. I'm feeling so grateful. Pretty much everyone here knows somebody who's lost a home or has been evacuated. Thankfully, I'm in the camp where my inner circle, I know people who have evacuated, but nobody has lost a home.
Good.
So, yeah, talk about some great SEL content there. It's actually brought up a lot of really amazing questions. You find yourself doing these really interesting exercises because I'm like under 5 miles from the Palisades fire, but thank goodness I have the concrete jungle of Century City and Westwood before it reaches where I live.
Yeah.
So we feel relatively safe, but it did make me question it. And I sat down and did my little writer's exercises. I did my little list of like room by room, what are the things I would put in a go bag. And that in itself was a really enlightening experience, and kind of spurred a couple of ideas for picture books actually that would be applicable to kids. So
that's a great exercise.
The other one would be to go and take a look at the the things that people are donating out on the beaches, that if you can go there and get that inspiration for a picture book, that would be phenomenal.
Yeah, it's been really it's been sad and hard to watch, but it's been very inspiring too. Yeah.
Right. Always good that comes of bad. Yeah. And Sue, last time we chatted, Sue Twigs, last time we chatted with you, you were on a trip doing some pretty major research. How's that book coming?
It's coming. It's coming. I'm working on draft and incorporating a lot of the setting I saw when I visited Split, which is the city that a lot of it goes on, takes place in. So the trip has been well worth it. Not to mention how it strengthened my relationship with my son.
That was Croatia, wasn't
Quite an
it?
adventure. Yeah.
Croatia. Yeah, you were breaking up a little bit there. Good. That's neat. Good for you.
Thanks for asking.
You bet. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you everybody so much for all of your input and for sharing your books, and the purchase links are in there. So if any of them interested you, please be sure to hop on and support each other. We're going to switch gears to Valerie, our resident expert marketer. And she's going to give, she probably could go for hours and hours, but we asked her for a few.
I think Kelly had something to say.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had, do you need to do the book giveaway first?
Should we do? Yeah, let's do that.
Just in case anybody has to sign off a little early.
Sure.
I have Unstoppable John goes to Suko.
All
And
right.
Holding On to Courage goes to Valerie Biel.
Yay!
And I Am You Are goes to Anna Aronson.
Yay!
Wonderful. Now tell them how you'd like them to share their addresses so it's not all public.
I am putting my email in the chat and it should come in there right now, hopefully.
And
Anyway,
Anna,
if you email me your address, then I will get your address to the author and they'll be sending it out to you then.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
And I have to sign off. I have to put my kids to bed, but I will be watching Valerie's recording. So,
All right, Anna, thank you.
bye.
I also
Thanks
have
for
to leave
sharing.
at 8. Thank you
Okay.
guys so much. I really appreciate you. I'm so sorry I have to go now for bedtime.
You're going to want to jump onto the recording though, because Valerie is
Oh,
amazing.
yeah.
I can't
Absolutely.
wait.
All right, gals.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank
You're-
you.
Yeah, I remember those days, the bedtime days.
And I was yawning earlier, not because I'm bored or anything. It's like I go to bed when they go to bed. If I fall asleep, I'm out. But
No, we get it. We get it.
so
Totally get it.
and I will be checking the video, so I appreciate you so much.
Wonderful. Okay. Bye, Holly.
So I wanted to mention the Substack. So Joyce, you guys, I've gotten some subscribers now from you recommending me, over on Substack. So the magic of Substack, I'm so glad that I've switched over there. Because it's not a closed system the way it is if you're like using MailChimp or something to send your newsletter out. There are some cons for sure, but I've been finding more pros over there on that system. Just because people organically find you, I recommend people, whatever. Now, will they stick with me? I don't know. I get unsubscribes because they get their first email from me and they're like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was. You know what I mean? But a lot of people do stick with you. And I've been growing my list over there faster than I ever did with like putting stuff out on Facebook or whatever. So I thought I'd mention
so
that.
many authors, it's our community. So if
Well,
you're not on Substack, get on Substack.
And it's like, it's pure over there. Now I hope they don't screw it up.
Yeah.
and start like selling ads or something over there and like mucking it up, right? Because it's the way social media was in the very beginning, where you only received the info you subscribed to. And it was just like a very helpful feed. You curated your own feed, and that's how it feels to me. I like it there. Well, we'll see what happens. Now, something, Pat, that you said, where you're like, I'm not sure if what I'm doing is having any impact. Do you ever go on your Amazon Author Central and look at book scan?
I do. Yeah.
Okay, so you're aware of that. For people who are watching this, who maybe are new to all this, you can go in. There's other ways to get there too, but the easiest way is you have an Author Central account and you go into the marketing tab on your Author Central account. Reports and marketing? It's the report tab. I don't know if they're together. And you can choose book scan and it'll show you your print sales from the previous week. It's just a 7-day report, but it goes way, way back. And it's, what do they say, 85% accurate. So it's Nielsen book scan. So you know how they used to do the TV, like ratings and stuff. So they're surveying select bookstores around the country. And it's only for print, doesn't do anything for ebook, but obviously picture book, most of that's being sold in print. I suppose there are some people who might get an electronic version. Anyway, it's kind of nice. I have a lot of traditional authors that I work with, and sometimes we don't get reports, obviously, from the publishers when we're doing ads and things. So it's a really nice way to just see if you move the needle at all. I mean, you're in the middle of, a brand new book. So there's a lot of sales taking place. So then it's hard. Yeah, I bet they are. I bet they are. I say I can almost 100% say that you're getting a bunch of sales on that. So I just thought I'd mention that because sometimes we forget that we do have a little window in, even if our publisher isn't, you get quarterly or, infrequent sometimes reports, depends on the publisher, right? If you're independently published, you can go over to your KDP dashboard and see, but yeah. So I split this up. I had 3 things that I felt were essential to help your marketing efforts or your publicity efforts in the pre-launch phase. And this is for beginners too. So, I mean, obviously the people here who have been around for a while and have things published for a while, you've got to have your website. And a lot of authors might say, or I've heard questions at conferences, do I really need a website? I'm like, yep, you do. It's your calling card to the world. You get to control the content there. It's basically your big business card. And it's doesn't have to be super fancy. It just has to be professionally done. And that doesn't mean it has to be done by a professional. You could go on to Wix or any of those that are easy drag and drop systems. I prefer WordPress, but there's a lot of nice systems out there that are very easy to do, and it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. The other thing I say, you've got to pick at least one social media platform and be present on it. It may not be your favorite thing, so pick the one you like the best. Because Pat, were you saying that if you don't like doing what you're doing, it's that people are going to be able to tell that you don't like being there. So I say pick one. I don't do Twitter X anymore at all, but I have a pinned post at the top that says, hey, I'm not over here anymore. Come over, follow me over on Substack, or come over to Facebook or Instagram. And then I utilize the Meta dashboard thingy, where you can go in and for Facebook and you can cross post right away to Instagram and Facebook at the same time. So some people only comment on my Instagram stuff. Some people only comment on my Facebook stuff. It's fine. But pick one social media platform, and who knows what's going to happen with TikTok. We'll see. That's all in flux right now. But the video aspect of it, I was glad to hear. I've seen some of your videos. So Pat, I think we gravitate to videos so much, right? It's the thing that stops our scroll. So if you can master that, and I did a lot of YouTube shorts last year with my failed agent search. That was super fun. Anyway, but it was something that taught me how to do short video format. And let's be honest, we don't have attention spans anymore, which is something I'm sure as children's authors, we are working to combat. But yeah, so if we're going to stop aimless scrolling and have them stop and look at our stuff, video is great. So mainly those are my 3. And then pre-launch, closer to launch, but pre-launch, working on your review, your approach to reviews. You're going to have an organized approach. Now you're going to have, I think of it in 3 tiers. I think about reaching out to people for blurbs in advance. So other authors or you know, maybe there's people, if you're writing on a topic like a nonfiction topic, maybe there's a, you know, someone who's an expert in that field that it matters. But basically work on those, you know, outreach in advance, the ones that might, you know, show up on your cover, right? Or in some, you know, in your supporting materials that go out, say, to get media attention. So those are important requests for reviews. Then there's the, you know, the asking for reviews like from readers. Like you want to make sure if there's a way to do a call to action at the back of your book, you know, for reviews or in any interactions, make sure you're asking for reviews. There's editorial review services, you know, like the bigger places, School Library Journal, for instance. Now, they don't review everything, but you got to log on, figure out their rules and their system and upload. If you're an independently published author like I am, you've got to do that yourself. Your publisher should be doing those editorial reviews if you're with a publisher. But if you're with a small publisher, make sure to ask, who are you sending these things out to for editorial reviews so that you don't miss out on an opportunity? Like with Kirkus, they've got windows where they want that in advance, like well in advance, like 5-6 months sometimes in advance. As an indie author, I was surprised for my latest release in the middle grade market that Haven got a School Library Journal review. So you got to try. You don't know what's going to happen if you're an indie author. And I suppose even at times they're getting so many from publishing houses too, but that's important. And then review services. This is actually probably more for the indie author. I use NetGalley and I get to a NetGalley 1 month listing that's much more reasonable than say what a publisher pays for because they have so many authors they're managing. And so they can afford to have like the bigger account with them. But I spend $99 to get a 1 month listing on NetGalley through Books Go Social, booksgosocial.com, I think. And, you know, I was just looking at that tonight. I have like 200 and like maybe 50 people signed up to read my YA novel. I didn't put the middle grade up there yet. It's a little, I'm not sure how middle grade will do. I'm going to give it a try. But it's a worthy service. And it's not prohibitively expensive to get a bunch of reviews. The output you get back in that month, you get the reviews that were posted during that month, but you also get everyone's emails and you are allowed to contact them twice for review reminders, if you will, and you can send them the links to do your reviews. So those are my like 3 like pre-launch things. But again, your publisher should be putting you on like a NetGalley style system and making your book available for review. And they should have an approach that makes sense for your book. Yeah.
So Valerie, if you're self-published, you know, people that are with a publishing company, they often get ARCs and they can send those out. What do you do for advanced reader copies?
I mean, clearly because of the expense, I kind of prefer to send out the EPUB or a PDF, right?
Yeah.
So I get those formatted and ready. So when I start to ask for those reviews, I have those ready.
Okay.
The print copies, I did have some made. I tended to buy the proof copies that way, just then they've got the band. Some people get them made with, let's say, you know, advanced reader copy right on here. If they're coming from your publisher, they'll say advanced reader copy, not for resale. So I got some made in advance and, you know, these still had a few typos in and because it wasn't the finished, you know, version, because I had to get them done in advance to have them available. It's a whole timing thing. It's like crazy, right? How long it takes to do this right. So yeah, so I do offer print copies. If somebody is adamant, this is a small expense to get a good blurb from another author or somebody, right? So,
Right.
and also don't be afraid to ask people that are kind of like well-known. If you have some relationship with them or someone who can refer you to them and say, you know, so-and-so, who you know thought that you might be interested in this, you know, I know you're busy, but would you be consider writing, you know, a blurb for my book? I mean, what does it hurt? They say no or they ignore you, you know,
Right.
and they might say yes. So that's
Right.
the nice thing there. And then post launch, my top 3 things that I find move the needle and sell books for my clients and for myself are Amazon ads, Facebook ads, and promo stacking. And Every single book is a different recipe with those three things. And I have found sometimes for clients that we cannot get Facebook ads to work, but Amazon ads have worked great, or vice versa. And one, and often they both work, but they work in different ways. And so you have to be willing to test out what's going to work. The caveat here is the ROI. It's really hard to achieve a return on investment with traditionally published books where your royalty is being shared with the publisher, and your royalty rate may not be high enough to allow you to make a profit if you are the only one supporting those ads, financially, if the author is the only person paying into those. I do have some clients who have partnerships on these things with their publisher, and they do split these costs. Not everybody has that kind of relationship. Those are usually small publishing houses, but bigger publishing houses do run ads like this too, right? For you. They can. The promo stacking thing, do you guys know what promo stacking is? Should I define that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's talk through real simply what that is. There are all these sites out there that have email subscribers. And if you put your book on sale, then you promote that book out to those subscribers via that particular service for one day, probably one day. And so you might be a 99-cent book. So you're taking a little bit of a loss. I'm not a huge fan of free books unless you've got a really, really long series, right? And you might put the first one free. But then if you are traditionally published, you got to have the cooperation of your publisher to do that kind of price break. Most of the time, these are for like bigger, like longer books, not picture books. These would be for like middle grade on up. And then you're only talking about the ebook here for these services.
Oh.
So the biggest one out there is BookBub, and you probably have heard of BookBub. BookBub has a fairly pricey like advertising fee if you were to get a day with them. You apply for them to them, and they either accept you or don't accept you for the deal of one of the deals of the day. And they've got a nice pricing grid. So it's very simple to see what it would cost. So free books cost this much in each category: 99-cent, $1.99, $2.99, $3.99. And I don't think they do much over $4.99. I think that's the top end. And they're so transparent. They tell you how many free downloads you can expect in that category on average, or how many sales you can expect in that category on average. The sales range, they give the range. So the high end, I'm always assuming, is probably more 99-cent books, right? Because they're going to have more sales with the lower price point. So that's sort of like the gold standard of promo stacking. That's the best promo site out there. They have very, very big email lists. If you're on the consumer side of that, as a reader, I've signed up. I get those emails every day. I tell BookBub what genres, what categories of books I like, and then those are the only things I see. So it's people are looking for a deal. Now, what happens with this strategy, promo stacking, is you try to put these into a 5, maybe to 7 day period, and you book other ones through that week of discounted pricing. And usually you end up popping into the bestseller list on probably Amazon, maybe elsewhere, because so many purchases get made when you're, doing a 99-cent, like actual paid, not a free book. So it's very effective in making you visible. It's most effective with a series because it's an expensive endeavor. If you don't use a BookBub deal, you don't get a BookBub deal, you can do this for $300, $350 and have a promo on every day of a 5 to 7 day promo stack week. BookBub's pricier, but it's almost always worth it. I rarely have seen anyone not come out ahead when they've spent the money on a BookBub deal.
If you already have a series, are these just new books, or can you kind of start back?
You can start back. And in fact, if the series needs to be read in order, you're better off starting with book 1 anyway, right? Although some authors might throw a later book on. Now, the interesting thing is this used to be sort of like just an indie pub area, self pub area. And it works so well that guess what? Now all the publishers are over there and they often pop stuff from the backlist on there, like an old JD Robb book. Like she's up to what, 60 now? Nora Roberts as JD Robb, right? I love those books. Anyway, they're police procedurals. So like murder mysteries. And she's a homicide detective, the character. So I'm trying to think, like sometimes like number 10 will show up for like 99 cents or $1.99 or something like that. So so now, you know, us like self-pub, indie pub folks are competing with the big publishers over there, but then you know it's working, right?
Mhm.
So that's kind of an interesting thing. It may not work as well in the children's market because I do know that more physical books are purchased versus ebooks. Usually, you know, for middle grade on down, it worked great for YA. It's like you can knock it out of the park with a YA series doing that. And you can do, you know, if you've got a fairly big list, even though the books aren't in a series, if you want to introduce, you know, readers to your writing, that's another way to do it too, even if there's not, you know, a series for read through rate, they might read through your other books if they like your, you know, writing style and especially if they're somewhat related in terms of, you know, category of book. So those are my main things. I also am a big fan of leveraging other people's networks, podcasts, guest blogging, blog tours. And those things can be, you know, nebulous, like whether you're getting sales from them, but if you're trying to broaden your reach in an area where people have spent years building up their audiences and they're willing to give you some space. So like recently, do you guys know who Hank Philippi Ryan is? Okay, so Hank Philippi Ryan's a big crime thriller suspense writer. And I've met her a few different times in different places. And it was one of those like, do I ask her for a blurb? Oh man, you know, but you hit send on the email. And then you're like, you just hit send and go, oh, I hope she is not irritated. And then I bumped into her at a conference and said, hey, I sent you that email. She goes, yeah, you did. and she's like, well, I'm not supposed to really do these. My publisher doesn't really want me to do blurbs, but how about a guest spot on Jungle Red Writers, which is a group of 7 thriller suspense writers that are very famous, and they let people come in and guest post. And that was a pretty nice place to hang out for one day. And I got a lot of good interaction there. So leverage other people's networks where you can. So, but I mean, that's like a really quick download on my favorite things. I feel like, you know, Julie Andrews, my favorite things, but so, but I'm, you know, I don't know how long you want to go. It's 8:20. If there's questions here now, I mean, I'm happy to do.
Yeah, that was very helpful. I have 2 pages of notes.
I talk so fast. I'm sorry.
You talk fast. My hand hurts. You're right. Anybody have any questions for Valerie or anything to add in your marketing life? That was good. I'm anxious to learn more about NetGalley and BookBub. Those are the 2 I wrote down.
Yeah. And, you know, BookBub allows you know how Goodreads is and you have a profile over there and people put reviews up. BookBub does the same thing. You can have a profile in there as an author and people can post reviews over there too. And you can start getting followers. There's some thoughts that the more followers you have, like over on BookBub, that it might help you get a deal with them. Like maybe there's a tipping point. I don't know. I don't have a lot of followers over there yet. I have not pursued that a whole heck of a lot. But yeah, but I don't mind people emailing me questions too. I can put my email in the chat.
Yeah, that'd be great. I noticed Pat did that. Thank you. And Joyce, good.
Valerie, I have a quick question for you. I noticed that you do a newsletter. I subscribed and I really like it. As far as a recommendation for a newsletter, I noticed that a lot of authors are doing those now. Do you think that that's valuable to collect email addresses and do a newsletter? Or do you think that if you're spending time, it should be spent in different places?
I think that's incredibly valuable, but it's sort of like the same problem we all have is like, how many things can we do and do well, right? You know, and also have, you know, protect our writing time, right? So I think that because of the way we don't own access to our social media followers, we really don't. We can curate those lists and those audiences, but they change the rules and we might not be able to get through to our people that have followed us for years in the same manner, right? So that's why an email list is so important. And I'm really always encouraging people as they build their website to have some way for people to sign up with their email address. I am a fan of also lead magnets. Do you guys know what those are? That would be the giveaway thing that you give someone in exchange for them giving you your email. So I have some options. I have readers who sign up, so I give them a short story that relates to my Circle of Nine and more Celtic series. Or if they're writers, I give a few choice of a couple checklists of things that they might, find useful in their writing world. But yeah, I think they are important. I subscribe to so many author newsletters and I love them because I get goodies in those newsletters. I get little freebies, I get little tidbits, little extra chapters. I get like the special extended epilogue on some romance novel. And I'm like, what happens next year? You know what I mean? And then like 5 years down the road, and I'm like such a sucker for it, but I love it. You can have my email address all day long if you tell me what happens to this romantic couple 5 years from now. So, so that's easy, but there's all kinds of neat things that you can give away in exchange for, for an email address. But then what do you send that like later? Like, how do you communicate with them? It can be anything. It can be, like just what you're working on now. It can be, I always want it to be authentic. It may be just a little personal, but it may be meaning personal about your writing world if you don't want to bring your family into your, writing stuff. Maybe you're just talking about like a difficulty you had with a scene or something, or funny things that happen, a funny thing happened on the way to the publisher, whatever, right? So, or the things kids ask. Oh my gosh, Kate DiCamillo, the things she puts on her Facebook page, and I haven't seen any in a little while, and I don't know if it's like Facebook messing with my algorithm or what, but the things that people come up to her and say to her about her books make me cry some days. Like, it's so sweet and wonderful. Like, you could do things like that. She does that on her social media, but you can put that in a newsletter. It doesn't have to be super long. It can be on a single topic. It can be on multiple topics. It can be once a month. It could be every other week. It can be once a quarter, but once a quarter is pretty much the minimum I think you should do.
I have a question about stickers.
Love stickers.
Stickers. And so who do you use? Because I don't want just a circle. I don't want just a rectangle. I want to have like shapes. So I went on Etsy and I looked, and there are just a ton of them. But what's the best one? What have you found to be really great?
I do not do sticker shapes, but I ordered my stickers in like the size of like the orientation of my books, right? For my book covers. Then I ordered these Post-it notebooks, these little tiny Post-it note booklets, and I slapped those little stickers on so they look like mini books. And
Show us one.
have you seen them?
No, show us one.
Okay, hang on. Sorry, they're right here. I just can't reach them.
I always put my cover on a sticker. And it's helpful when you're working like a table or booth. I'll say, would you kids like a sticker for your water bottle? And they'll come over, and then pretty soon the parents come over. Okay, let's see.
So I bought these stickers. They're 3 by 2 inches, but from U Printing. And I have them for my middle grade book too. So they look like this. And then on the other side, I just have this. And then inside is like Post-it notes. Flags.
Oh, that's cool.
And so this wasn't my idea. This was somebody from Book Bonanza had these, and I was like, what is the best stuff I got this year, for swag, right? And then, so, I mean, I love shapes though, sticker shape, that are shaped. And the thing is, I mean, I guess I test people out and see if they're okay. And then if they're good to work with and they're not super expensive, I also like spent too much money on things like this.
That's really cute.
I use Vistaprint, and I didn't do shapes. I just do squares. And then
Yeah.
I mail out a ton of books. So I got a lot of like, I got envelopes that match the sticker, and then I've got a address label that matches. And at the post office, they're like, everything matches. I'm like, it does. You know, it just makes me happy. But Mr. Prince is who I use.
Pat, let's say it again.
I do love getting mail from you,
Oh,
Pat.
so I got the envelope. I have a sticker that matches, and then I don't have one in front of me, but I've got an address label, like a 2 label that has the same kind of light blue purple, so it all just blends. And then inside I have like
Print is good.
a coordinated bookmark that they get, and it's all this print.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's beautiful. It makes me happy. I love swag and tchotchkes and things.
I do too.
And you see this?
Yeah, they're pretty. They're shiny.
I got myself a little embosser.
Yes.
So it says Storied Ink, written by Joyce Piaglo. And then it has a little tree in the middle. And so, yeah.
Where did you get that, Joyce?
I searched and searched. I think I finally found a reasonably priced one on Amazon. So you just, you can put it on a page or you can put it on a sticker.
And then on my bookmarks, I always use a QR code on there, and just to make it easier. Right now, the latest batch I ordered, the QR code sends you to my universal book link. So if somebody, say, isn't sure they're going to buy, they're in front of you at a table at an event or something, and they're not sure they're going to buy your book that day, or they want the ebook, then it takes them to all the options, every format of that book, every retailer is visible on that universal book link.
So like Linktree, is that what you use?
No, I use actual books2read.com that creates it. It's a really nice little landing page. It shows all the actual like retailers. You can get into it through Draft to Digital. You don't have to actually do anything with Draft to Digital, but it's your portal in to create a universal book link.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So it's if you go to my website and just click on purchase options, you'll see what that looks like. And I probably should go back through and I should add more, in. And if you happen to be an Amazon affiliate or a iBooks affiliate, an Apple affiliate, you can put your affiliate code in and you get paid your affiliate money through
What
that.
did you call that? Universal
Book Link.
Book Link.
It just keeps your website from being junky with too many like buttons too.
Okay.
I don't know.
Very good.
Well, Valerie, thank you so
There's
much.
so much stuff out there, you guys. There's so much stuff.
And we are so lucky to have so much talent just within our own SCBWI. So many people that we can, lean on or ask questions. And I just think SCBWI is the greatest thing I ever did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So many, just like you throw a question out on the listserv, and you get an answer back where you're like, okay, I'm really confused now. What about this? Or what about that?
Yeah, right. It
It's
doesn't
nice.
just have to be Tuesday.
No. Wait, are we only supposed to put questions on there on Tuesdays?
Oh, that's the
Wait, what?
Tuesday or something. Oh gosh. Well, Sue had made a great comment. Thanks. Wow, my brain is full. Thanks for all this information. I'll be ordering the featured books. Great comment. I agree. I can't wait to get these books. Okay, our half hour is up. This is our first Beyond, Book Buzz and Beyond. Valerie, we couldn't have picked anybody better. Thank you so
Thank you, guys.
much.
Thank you.
Invaluable information. If anyone else feels that they have a strength in something, especially my part of You Grow News is the how-tos, how to do a book launch, how to make a trailer, how to, create a website that works for you. If anybody feels they have expertise, that's what I'm going to be looking for. And then Joyce is featuring authors and illustrators, kind of like Book Buzz, but in our You Grow News on Substack. So please reach out to us if we can, if you have an area that we can use, and certainly we'll promote you and your books too.
And Pat, we got, as of yesterday, 60 hits, 60 people who have read our interview. And I didn't look today, but I have a feeling it's great, especially because Valerie said people are taking the recommendation and going to other
Oh,
people. Yeah,
That's
very
awesome. I did share it with my publisher. So I said, here's a thing, and I sent them the link. So that's cool.
Thanks for
Yeah.
doing that, Pat. It's a great way for us to start. Yay. And nice job,
Beautiful.
Joyce. You did a really nice job. I loved reading it,
Yeah, it
Pat.
turned out really well. Thank you.
Yeah,
You're
it really
welcome.
did. All right, everybody, we try to keep within our time frame. So thank you all so very much. This will be recorded. You can go back and watch again if you would like. Sue, welcome again from afar. It was so nice to have you. Yeah, both Sues. Have a great night, everybody.
Stay safe.
So much. Great to meet
Bye.
you.